I grew up in a very black and white existence of good and bad. I believed that everything I had been told about alcohol up until that point was a lie, because I didn't feel like I was going crazy. I didn't feel like I wanted to drink a lot more right away. I didn't feel any of the outlandish things from the messages I had received about alcohol throughout my adolescence. All I felt was peace and comfort. I was questioning everything for the first time, starting with alcohol. My worldview that I had been raised with all of a sudden got shattered when I drank, and all the things I was told would happen didn't happen right away. I started to challenge every part of my worldview. I am gay. I didn't know at the time. I couldn't confront those thoughts. I felt like I had to be and say everything that was expected of me to fit in. Darkness from the get-go as a kid scared me. At night is where my most fearful thoughts would start to invade. And I'm not talking about the boogeyman. Mine was of death, of loneliness, of my needs not being met. I was already future tripping, a foreboding of what might be to come. There's nothing scarier than death. So I thought. The scariest thing is isolation, being separated from the ability to feel, to relate and connect with people I love and care about. I thought death was the scariest thing. And so I tried to soothe that. The scariest thing truly is a life not fully lived, being separated from what brings us joy in the human experience. And for me, it was drugs and alcohol. I remember after I had gotten sober for a little while, there was this feeling and knowing of fullness, just feeling okay. I had this realization that I felt good again. It was a feeling that I hadn't felt since before I picked up my first drink. So you asked me what black and white means. During that period of time, I could really only describe black. Black was what I was drawn to, the dark, the night, the partying, and it's fun until it's not fun anymore. And that darkness becomes a cage. So everybody's rock bottom is different and looks different. And mine had its own unique story to it. When I hit my rock bottom, yes, surrounded in the darkness, the black, it's not like the light all of a sudden turns on, and it didn't for me. But a hand of help was reached out for me, and I took it. I'm at home, mom and dad's house, living with mom and dad because I had nowhere else to go.
How old?
24, 2011. And my dad, he was in the hospital for life-threatening lung problems. And my siblings came and did an intervention on me. You know, they said, hey, we know this facade that you've been holding up is all a lie. And the family, we're all standing together saying that you're not gonna stay here. We're not going to enable you to continue doing anything that you are doing. And your choice is to accept help right now, today, or to go on your own and figure out life. I would have been on the street. I mean, that's so crazy for me to think and say. There were months where I was couch surfing. I accepted help. I went. I didn't know what the next step was to getting help. I thought it was just being there. And what I'm referring to is going to treatment. I would call this a black and white moment, but all I saw was black. I didn't want to let anybody in. I didn't want anybody to know my pain. But what I didn't understand at the time was that letting people in was the only thing that was going to heal me. No treatment center you go to tells you everything on day one. So I go to treatment and I'm showing up to groups late, if at all. A lot of the time in my bathrobe and slippers. I was not taking things seriously. 2 weeks in, they had a meeting with me. When you enter treatment, one of the very important questions that they ask you about is, are you in any legal trouble? And just like everything else that involved any ounce of shame that they asked me, I either under or over exaggerated and did not admit to any legal trouble that was on my shoulders at the time. I don't even remember what it was, something I had done, stolen liquor or, whatever. And I hadn't showed up to court for it. I knew I was gonna have to deal with it, but I thought I could deal with it later. The Williamson County Sheriff's Office shows up at my parents' house with a warrant for my arrest. I was already in treatment, but my parents and the people running the treatment center were like, okay, he's 2 weeks in and still hasn't told us the truth about what's going on completely in his life. So they sit down and they sit me down and say, look, we don't know if we're gonna keep you in this program. You're not showing up. You're not acting like you want it. You're the bad apple of the bunch. We have a group full of people here at treatment that want what we're offering to them. And we don't want you to be the one that brings everyone down. And you've had plenty of opportunity to start accepting help. And we're just now finding out this information. Your parents had to have a sheriff show up on their doorstep and blindside them with a warrant for your arrest. How do you think that made them feel? When it came to interactions with other people, my primary emotion was shame at this point. You go so long using and drinking and doing whatever you need to do to get the feeling that you need to feel to be okay, that your consequences are building up on your shoulders and that the shame of those consequences are stacking up. So not only am I numbing to relieve the pain of being alive, the things that I'm avoiding, I'm numbing myself out because I don't want to face all of the shame and guilt for the consequences and the things that I've done while I've been using and drinking. So they give me an ultimatum in treatment. And I say ultimatum, it was so weird because it wasn't even that. It was we don't know what we're going to do with you. We don't know if we're going to keep you. Your parents said you're not coming home. If we decide not to keep you, we're going to be taking you to a truck stop down the road and we'll give you your things. And so you have some thinking to do, and we do too. And we're going to get back to you. I don't remember what the time period was on that. My burning bush moment came when I walked out of that room. I don't want to go back to what I was doing. I clung to the hope that I would be able to join with the others that were doing the deal. So as time went on, I found hope. The veil began to lift. That aha moment really happened over a slow period where I realized that I had people that I could relate to that previously I never would have thought that I had anything in common with. We were all like people saved from shipwreck. I started to feel joy again. That was a level of awareness that I had not had in years. Feeling good had been stolen from me. So when I talk about my aha moment, it was the simple things that I started to be grateful for. The sun rising and feeling warm, recognizing that the sun was rising and appreciating it. The birds chirping used to be something that would bring me down and make me so depressed in the morning because I would always hear them after staying up an entire night yet again. Now, birds in the morning were something that was a beautiful sound to me because it was what I was waking up to. And I knew I had slept the night before, taking care of my body like a normal person. You feel it first before you see it. And it feels warm. And it happens before your perception even realizes that it's happening. It's because of the doing, the actions that you're taking. Only those who have seen and lived in the shackles of utter darkness can appreciate when the light comes on. When you're in those shackles, you've forgotten that light is possible. Addiction can come from numerous different causes, but what perpetuates and often ignites an addiction is purely isolation. It comes to the point where you either fix it or you lose it. People, family, housing, car, money for food. You lose the people you love. You lose the place you live. And you lose all the light you have left. Anyone that's gone through trauma can tell you that after going through that darkness, the light on the other side is so much brighter. My pitfalls paved the way for something profound. Having an understanding of how dark the world can be gave me more of an appreciation for the light. Mental illness and addiction don't only affect the person going through it. Nearly half of Americans have a family member or close friend who's been addicted to drugs. 1 in 4 Americans will experience mental illness within a given year. All of this, in addition to the dysfunction that we know is in everyone's family, touch all of us. No matter what part you play in these systems, my goal here is to help you identify with not only the struggle of the stories that we're telling, but the healing that guides the path to the way out. What I've found works is community. To find the way out, to stay on the path, to make it through pain. If I'm in pain, my pain is cut in half if I'm suffering, but you're sitting here with me. My goal is to help you find connection in the struggle and the healing. What started off as our own community to support each other through recovery turned into an outreach to support the rest of the world and embrace them with open arms. So when COVID hit, we knew we couldn't afford to lose the community we had created. Our lives depended on it, because our recovery depended on it. The necessity to connect however we could brought light to a much larger community. And it lit the path to recovery for many who couldn't see it before. I'm hoping that these conversations will let someone out there know that they are not alone and that there's light at the end of the tunnel. When people come to Rooted Recovery Stories for the first time, they're gonna find a whole library of individuals who've chosen to get vulnerable and tell their story so that others wouldn't have to suffer alone and in silence. Tragedy gives us, if we let it teach us, the gift of perspective on the other side. I look at what came from COVID. This podcast is one of those things. This is my life's passion project. It was one of the best surprises I never knew I needed, a recovery community needed, an outlet, a gift.